Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for 11th of March 2022. I am not Benji Fisher. I am Aaron McHale, moderating the meeting today. Benji is unavailable, so I've stepped in. Joining us on the call today, we have Andy Bloom, Andre Pedrosa, Antonio, Christina Chumilas, Mike Herschel, Ofer Schall, Rolf Keller, Diego, I'm sorry, Diego, I don't know how to pronounce your surname, and Thomas Howell. So sorry if I'm terrible with names, so sorry if I butchered anybody's name there. If you prefer to type in the chat, I will keep an eye on the chat and bring up any comments. If this is your first time joining the meeting, please do be sure to put your Drupal.org username into the Slack thread or into the Zoom chat, and we'll capture that for giving issue credit as well. Of course, the advantages of these meetings are that we have a wide variety of people attending. So for usability issues, we have a good group of people, including backend developers, front-end developers, site builders, themers, and site users. We're going to kick off today with an issue relating to Olivero, and I'm going to hand over to Andre to present that. So take it away.
All right. So this is issue 3257274. It's for Olivero for version 10 of Drupal. And yeah, so the basic version of what's happening here before we get into the exact interface is that throughout Olivero, we're using this blue color, and all of the colors here are set using the HSL color space, which means that it makes it really easy to modify the colors, just the saturation, just the lightness, or just the precise hue. And if we, what am I trying to do here? If we put it into mobile, we can see a couple different things here. So we can see kind of where that blue is used throughout. If this had a drop-down menu, you would see a blue bar on the left-hand side here, but I don't have that because this is just the Umami installation. What we've done is in the Olivero theme settings, we've added one field. The one field that we have added is this text input right here. And then with JavaScript, we are adding in a HTML color input next to it, and we are adding a select above it. The colors that we've added in are just the color names from Bartik, but slightly modified to just be a little bit darker, I think. But the basic version here is you can open up your color picker and you can modify your hue, saturation, and lightness. This is the Firefox native color changing piece here. And as you can see, as you change the color, the hex value stays synchronized with it. And it also works the other way. So if we put in just a 6-digit hexadecimal, once you get all 6 digits in there, the HTML color input also updates. And then if you pick any of the presets, so the Blue Lagoon is the Olivero default, and then just Firehouse, Ice, Plum. And then once you save this and go back to the home page, you can see Olivero is now, instead of being a blue colored theme, it's now a purple colored theme. And so the way we're doing that in the back end is we're using some math to convert the hexadecimal color to the individual HSL values and then passing those in as CSS variables. I have not actually been a part of this meeting or this Slack channel before, so I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this meeting is, but that is what we've been doing. Is there anything else that I should be showing here, Mike or Christina?
Can you show it just without JavaScript, just so they can kind of see that it works without JavaScript?
Yeah. So if we come on this page and we disable our JavaScript, we can come in and we still have just the text input here. And if we put in, a new color, no idea what this is going to be. We save that and we go back to our site. Now we have a new color for the theme. And then the other thing that we've implemented here is we're using the pattern attribute. So if I decide, hey, I just want fire engine red, and I know that's F00, and I want to click save, we're using the pattern attribute to make sure that validates on the front end before it even gets to the back end. But we do have some back end validation in place as well.
Do you have the 6-digit hex code for that? Because I'd kind of like to see it.
For fire engine red?
Yeah, the FF0.
Yeah, just FF0000. Yeah.
Let's see what that looks like. That's great. Yeah, thank you. So does anybody have any particular comments or feedback on what we've just seen here?
Yeah, so basically to just give a little bit more context here, I asked them, and I asked actually to talk about this issue because as a background, there's the issue on the ideas issue queue to remove the color module from Drupal core for Drupal 10, meaning that the core is going to get rid of its only way to customize the UI, which actually nowadays only the Bartik theme can do. So I'm personally interested on this kind of things get evolving like this kind of UI. So Claro and other themes can use at some point this kind of features. But I'm afraid there's going to be some back and forth about getting rid of a feature that some people would like to have. And on the other side, you have a theme that is implementing exactly the same on its own way. And I just wanted to be sure that everybody here was aware of the background and that you're aware that functionality is being added on a different way instead of having the craziness that color is giving us, because this right now is on a design perspective way more limited that Claro is giving. Sorry, color module is giving, but on the other side is that basic step that we need to modernize how we let people choose the colors of the UI. So I will probably say, and it's been said, so the issue to move the color out of core is 28085151. And some people in there, I actually mentioned that the code for the color module is old. We should get rid of that and start implementing something modern using CSS variables and so on. I totally agree with that. I'm going to comment something on the same way in there, but I think that's important to evaluate this feature, not only by its UI, but also that it is replacing something that was already in core and it's going to get out of core. And that's all. So this way you all have the context.
Yeah, and just a little bit of follow-up from Christina's talk about the color module. So like right now, the color module as it stands is kind of unusable, at least for us, and probably like the majority of other themes, which is why you don't see a lot of adoption of it. I would love it if there was a complete refactor or a new color module. Like in my mind, it would be like really neat if it could pop out in a settings tray, and as you change stuff, you could see the theme changing like dynamically. Like that would be possible. You know, that is possible with a significant amount of work. That being said, like right now, we're also like kind of like testing this out and seeing if this works. If and when there is a refactor of the color module, we will provide some type of like I don't know, not a migration, but an update, you know, so we move our theme settings into that module and declare that dependency and stuff like that, if and when that happens. Which honestly, I would love if it does, because to kind of navigate away from the theme, make the change, and then navigate back to the theme is obviously not optimal.
Yeah, and it would be nice to be able to share the mathematical function that's doing the color conversion outside of just the theme. There's I've thought about this as well. It would be nice if the color module were, instead of doing what it does now, if it were set up to use CSS variables, you could provide both a PHP library to do color space conversions as well as a JavaScript one, and just have those available in core to anybody who wants to make use of those functions.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But that, of course, is all out of the scope of what we're doing here.
Right.
So what we're doing here is just providing, like, an implementation of color changing within Drupal's existing technologies, and we're obviously, like, we've been working with the accessibility maintainers to make sure that form is accessible, because we have two things synced up, and so that's like a little tricky. And so far we're doing really good right there. So
Right.
yeah.
So this is essentially like a starting point for potentially something bigger. I see, Ralph, you've got your hand up. Did you want to come in with a comment there?
Yep, I would have a question, because Mike mentioned accessibility. At the moment, the color, just the color for the logo and the underlines is changed, and in Olivero, the background color is always white, right?
Correct. Currently, yeah.
And would it be possible?
You're breaking up for me, Ralph. Is he breaking up for everybody else? Or
Yeah,
is it just me?
he said he
Yeah.
said in the chat he's having some connection issues, so hopefully he comes back.
So go ahead, Ralph.
Because my question is the following: would it be possible, or is it already implemented, to check the selected color if the color contrast against the white background is bigger or equal to 3:1 for non-text?
Yeah, that's something that is going to be a follow-up issue.
Okay.
Like I implemented something, and it's also important for what is it? There is some text that is important. I think it might be link text or something. But that all being said, like I implemented on a client site a while ago, like some dynamic checking, and that is something that I would love to implement, because obviously we want to be super accessible, but at the same time, like for the initial rollout, like this is what we're looking at right here.
It's great. So Ralph, did you want to come back in on that? So your hand coming in.
It's all good. All good.
Okay.
Thank you.
What I think would be great is if we could go back to the settings form, because I think that's somewhere where we could really see what the usability of that is. I'm thinking, like, do people think that this part of the form makes sense? Is this something that if a user was to, themer was to come along and see this, I'm wondering, do people think this is something they would easily be able to interpret and understand?
I feel that there should be a small amount of explanation. This makes sense to people who are designers, but for a random site builder or someone's brand new, it's going to be very hit or miss in terms of they don't know what it's changing. And so it would be good to at least within the context of Olivero. I think that if it were a separate module, you might not be able to predict how a given theme was using the color scheme settings, what you'd be changing. But I would give some guidance here, at least within the context of Olivero, to say, hey, changing this color here changes these things there, so that there's some expectation of what they're doing, or explanation, I should say.
That makes sense. Maybe we could like add some text directly under the field label there, either the field label being the Olivero color scheme settings. We could add some text maybe under there that says, changing these values will, change various header, footer, and link theme colors from the default view to the specified value? I mean, do you think something like that works? Cool.
Absolutely. That's I just wanted to give some guidance, because right now,
Yeah.
unless you know what it's supposed to be doing, it's great for experimenters, but it doesn't work well for people who aren't very experimentation based.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would also agree with that. And this may be so what I'm about to suggest, I think is absolutely probably a follow-up issue, but I wonder how feasible it would be to have some kind of like preview here that shows like next to it that shows that impact. Again, maybe that is something that is most definitely out of scope for this issue, but is something that could, because it sounds like something that might be a lot of work, but it's something that could again further lead into the thing you were talking about earlier, where this is like a stepping stone to something bigger. Again, just a suggestion, could be worthwhile to consider in a follow-up kind of thing, but I wouldn't block this issue on that specifically.
I was thinking about a thumbnail or something on the side, but now that you gave this idea, I think it can be fairly simple to implement, of almost like a tiny website, like, you know, the header and stuff that would use CSS variables and everything and would be displayed here. I'm not sure if it's actually.
It gets a little tricky because, you know, you have to load the entire styles and things like that. And like the DOM, if you do it that way, like in my mind, it would be nice to have like some type of like embedded SVG where we adjust the variables and that. But at that point,
nice.
we would have to keep that in sync. Like, to me, like, I agree with the UX. That is something that would be really, really helpful. And to tell you the truth, the color module currently provides that, but it's really difficult to implement, which is why people don't do it. You know, and then if the color module does get refactored, I would love it if like instead of providing a preview, they actually see it live. I don't know if y'all have ever like played with configuring the colors of the Gin admin theme. The cool thing about the Gin admin theme is when you're adjusting the colors, you're in that theme, so it can adjust it on the fly. And they have some JavaScript that adjusts that on the fly, which is really neat. I would love to be doing something like that.
Yeah, I'd agree that that'd be a really great way of doing it. I can see you demonstrated that there. Yeah.
So basically, as a context, there is another issue which actually is proposing to move replace the color module with a module that uses CSS variables. It hasn't been updated. There is a contrib module as a proof of concept for that, and it hasn't been updated for the last 2 years, I think. But in that issue, there is a discussion about how the UI will look like for this. And there is some there is some discussion about how this could work. And there are a few suggestions about how the UI could be distributed, like, for example, offering palettes instead of just the option to choose one color, where you can actually have several colors together. You can set that on the theme. That could be probably also configuration that you could give with your theme. I mean, there's a huge amount of things that can actually go in here, come in here and play together, like for the dark theme, for example. And I think this is version 2 of what we're doing, and that will be a great initiative to go in there and put all these thoughts and ideas and try to work for a better implementation. Well, not a better, sorry, another implementation. That
I would say it's a better implementation. You can call it that.
Okay. Well, post MVP or post version 1. So
yeah.
I would try to be aware that the scope of this is more like a proof of concept, and let's move on after that. I mean, I totally agree with the comments that you've said, and just that, as you were saying, probably for this version, it's not what we should do.
Okay, so it sounds like so far this has been quite well received. And the sort of a concrete suggestion that we've had is to add a bit more explanation on this form around what the impact of the change would be. So some kind of help text, which came from Thomas. Is there any other suggestions or comments that haven't been mentioned?
Yeah, on a UI perspective, how many options do you have on that select? The custom, sorry, color scheme.
Yeah, Andy, can you open up the color scheme drop down? The select color? Yeah. What do we got? Like 5, and those came from Bartik, right?
Yeah, those names came from Bartik. The colors are slightly modified, but yeah. And the only one that's really set right now is Blue Lagoon. We've been talking with designer Jen Witowski, who's been, is she the one designer or just a part of a team of the designers?
It's part of a team, yeah.
Yeah, trying to find colors that, whether we keep these names or not, ones that make sure that they pass the accessibility requirements, so that every option that we give people out of the box is accessible, but then they have the ability to break that if they want to.
Yeah, Drupal has a long history of allowing people to shoot themselves in the foot.
So I would propose, not for this issue, obviously, but as a follow-up, that this select becomes a picker, like for something closer to a radio or some different tools where you click different buttons, or let's say something that is not the select box, where you can actually see the color itself and click in there and choose the color as a follow-up.
That'd be interesting. You could have a radio button, and then you could style the labels of the radio buttons, or something like that with the color or something like that. Yeah, that could be a cool follow-up. Do you like and what I'm hearing from you is that's not a blocker or anything, but that would be yeah.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I think, and actually it's funny because in my organization for our internal theme, we have a set of color palettes, and we went with that exact same implementation of like some radio buttons with kind of like a label next to them that had the color for each one and the name. So yeah, something like that. And I thought it worked really well when they when the person implementing that was doing it. So yeah, definitely like a radio buttons like that with the color for each next to each name would work quite well. Because I think like right now, as you were showing, you have to see what the color looks like, you have to go into the select list, change the color, and then you get the preview. But yeah, having them next to it and radio buttons would be, I think, would work quite well. Is there any other comments or feedback on this issue from anybody? Nope. Okay, so that's great. Mike or Andy, are either of you happy to write up a summary on the issue? Otherwise, I'm happy to do it if you'd like.
I can comment on that. And do you want me to leave that in the do you want me to leave that in the this meeting issue?
If so, if you put a comment on the actual issue itself, and then just do a link to the meeting issue, and that's where the recording will be posted. Yeah, I can send you some information after this as well.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'll totally do it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I'm gonna drop just because I have a meeting coming up in just a couple minutes. But
okay, great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. I am going to I'm going to share my screen, and bear with me 1 second. I think I just want to make sure I captured the list today. Okay. Yeah, so I don't think anybody else has joined us since the start of the meeting, but if you have, do drop a note into the chat or drop your Drupal.org username into the Slack chat. I'm going to make sure that I bring up the right screen. Just a second. Gotta love Zoom. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there was a few extra issues that we carried forward from last week. We had started a discussion of the sort of this issue, which was highlighting the, no, that's the older issue. Yeah, this one. So highlighting the non-stable statuses on the uninstall form. Now, yeah, we started a discussion on this last week, but I think we sort of ran out of time. So it'd be good to maybe pick this up again and see if we could reach some kind of conclusion or consensus as to what the recommendations would be. There are these other issues which we could also take a look at, which are related, and I believe there's a meta issue here, which is more broadly about providing a mechanism for deprecating modules and themes. But the specific one here, let me close this one. So the specific one here is issue number 3266397. Highlight non-stable statuses on, or sorry, highlight non-stable modules on the admin modules uninstall form. I'm just going to see if I can quickly apply the patch that is there, just so we can get a view of that. Bear with me just a second. Oh, I think it, oh, that's unfortunate. I think the patch just failed to apply. Let me check. Oh, it's against 494. Just going to check I got the right patch. Yeah, that is unfortunately failing to apply on my end. So I'm not able to apply that patch for some reason. Perhaps it is, perhaps something has changed recently in head that has, since that patch was made. Let me just bring up the site anyway. It might be because, let's see, I'm going to try one more time. No, okay, that did not work. The Zoom UI. Let's go to standard because it'll be quicker. I am not having a good day today, am I? Yeah, I don't know why it is that it's not working for me. Try one more time here.
Can you
Am I
share the
just-
link here in the? Can you share the link in the chat so you
Yeah,
can try to?
Let me do that, because that might be, if someone if someone else is able to apply it, that would be great.
Yeah. I remember
I posted it
we were,
and I tried opening it with Drupal now. I can share a link soon.
Oh, if it's if you can get it with Drupal, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I have Umami with Drupal working.
Okay.
Let me share the URL with you.
Do you want me to stop
See if-
sharing, and if you can get it to work, you can share?
No, try using this. It should be admin. Do you see it in the
Of course
chat?
There we go, yeah. Okay, let me log in. Drupal to the rescue. I don't know what's wrong with my local development. It must be on mine.
It seemed like patching was successful in the. I didn't check the actual.
Yeah. Is this Drupal using like the latest like head, or is it using just 9.3 or 9.4? Because I'm using maybe it's
This one is 9.3x.
okay.
So
that
latest
might
of
be,
the 9.3.
yeah, okay.
Is that
'Cause I
okay?
don't know-
Or
no, that should be fine. I just because the patch was failing to apply on mine, so it must have been a very recent change in 9.4 since the patch was made. So that's
okay.
probably why.
The latest
So-
Drupal looking into the issue, the version of core in the issue and trying to use that one.
Right. Okay, do we have a module? Okay, so you said this was applied.
Is that supposed to be like forum module and things like that?
Yeah, so I wonder if the idea is that we should get something like this.
Okay.
So
Do
for
I need to
obsolete
maybe reinstall the site after the patch?
No, I don't think so. Maybe let me just see if we have to clear just clear the cache, because that's always a good idea. And it might be, it's specifically for the uninstall form. So let's just see if we have a. Oh,
but do we have any? But we need some obsolete module installed.
yeah, I was just thinking
for-
that. So like, is something like forum might not.
Forum is staying?
I think that's going to contribute. Let me see. Okay, oops.
It's not clicking for you, or?
No, and it's the page just crashed.
It's your
So-
browser. Do you want me to enable forum here?
Yeah, if you could, and hopefully, okay.
Sure.
Because it might be forum or just thinking.
Yeah, it says you must enable common module for forum. I said yes, and it is installed.
Okay. Say forum might not have been. Maybe it was not.
It's not listed as obsolete for on the
Yeah.
uninstall page.
Yeah.
But
that's-
wasn't the Helm module tagged as
Oh,
obsolete?
how? Yes, maybe. Also, this
I
is
mean,
nine. I wonder. This is 9.3, so it might be some modules might not be marked as obsolete in 9.3 yet.
Yeah, and I can move it to 9.4. I just installed also how to see if there's anything there.
Okay.
I don't see it really. Do you want me to try take it to 9.4?
Yeah, if that would, if you could, that'd be great. Because then I'm sure, because 9.4 is where these modules, some of them are being marked as uninstall. Sorry, obsolete.
Okay. Trying that now.
Oh yeah, there is some there's some steps to reproduce here from 9.4, but this is what I get for just assuming applying the patch live on the meeting is going to work. Should always prepare beforehand. There's a lesson.
Well, regarding the discussion we had about this issue last week, I remember we started talking about the this patch already places a warning sign, but I remember we were discussing the idea of placing all the obsolete modules in the top of the page, the uninstall page.
Right.
But I don't remember if we agreed about it or what was the agreement about this topic.
Yeah, so I think we got some way through discussing it and then didn't manage to finish the discussion last time.
So this one doesn't make you the 9.4. I'll try. If we can switch to another topic, I'll try to load another version
Okay.
with 9.4.
Christina, do you want to, while we're waiting, did you want to discuss the idea you were going to mention? Are you prepared to talk about that at all?
Yeah, well, I really don't need preparation, so happy to speak for a while.
Okay, let me just stop sharing just now, and then hopefully when we get this working, we can start sharing again.
Perfect. Yeah,
I should note, sorry, just before we start, I should note that a few people have dropped off, so we do have a smaller group now, but nonetheless, everybody will still get issue credit. But yeah, we can at least have a smaller group discussion here, it's fine.
Yeah, so it's more like a broad idea, nothing of not a plan yet. So background on the admin UI, in general, we have a lot of things that could be improved. Basically, so far, the UI has been always set by developers. And usually the site builders that end up creating the forms, the node forms, for example, that the content editor is going to use at the end are usually site builders, which are usually either developers or someone that doesn't have like a lot of experience on UX. So there is a lack of assessment on how to build that forms. And you can use a lot of content modules that could make that UI easier to use for a content author. But in general, in core, there are not that many instructions for site builders who are responsible to build the UIs for the final users. So my idea was trying to define a path or I don't know, a way to improve all the how we give this instruction. For example, the easier example is what we just saw. There's a lot of times where people just set a select box for something, and if or they choose I don't know, a radio for choosing between 12 options, and sometimes instead of a radio button widget, it should be a select box because there are more than whatever number of items. And this is specific information could go just, for example, the easier way would be just like a description on when you are actually building the form itself, or you could actually have this information on the field screens that you see on the way, or you could actually have this information on the form mode, because there is where you can actually switch between widgets. So basically this could be work to find these places where we can actually make improvements to the instructions that we give to the site builders, because we need to be aware of the reality. We will never be able to improve the UIs of the forms because we don't control them. So we can give better instructions to the people that is building them. And probably we should do first an evaluation where we can actually make this improvement or the information that we are giving to at the end up in general on a better experience for the content users. So it's more like a plan and a broad idea more than a specific thing. So yeah, probably should be like, let's come up with ideas, let's do some research, and who is available for doing that. And probably it could be people that could be interested on that or will have UX experience, or I don't know, something like that. So do you think I've talked enough time so you could set that issue?
Yeah, I
But,
think we have. I think we have a working. Do we have a working site now?
Yeah.
Yeah, says deprecated. You know, it's really interesting what you're saying, Christina. Like, just on those points, did you? So, is this like you're talking about specifically for content editors and site builders, providing them sort of guidance in the user interface as to what elements you should use for what? Like, are you thinking people when they're building out fields and building out forms, or more like actual? I suppose is that the thing you're thinking of, like if you're adding fields to a content type?
Exactly. So probably you could either give instructions when you are choosing, because if you take a look at the screen when you are adding a new field, you have a bunch of you have to set you have two select box, one to reuse and one to choose a new one. You can either reuse an existing field or choose a new one. And to choose a new one, you probably, well, it depends on how many modules you have enabled or installed. And you probably have, I don't know, 20 options. And a lot of time, these options, if you're not doing that every day, you have no idea what it means. Mm-hmm. That's on one side. And on the other side, at the moment that you are setting up the form itself, like organizing the fields, that one goes first, the other goes second, then you put them in a group of fields and you collapse it, and I don't know, this kind of, we could say small things that at the end, for a person that is working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, creating new content of a specific content type can actually help a lot. So if we can give that instructions, being aware of the kind of product Drupal is, where we actually are giving the tools for people to create the websites. Right. And if we give proper instructions and we expand our experience to that people and we explain them the best way to build that forms, that could actually overall improve the Drupal perception.
So you're thinking like on here, if you're going to add a field, you could choose, you'd get some guidance as to what you should use for what?
Yeah, either for example, so you as you see here, you just have a list of things and you really don't visualize what are those. So if I want to choose a checkbox, what am I supposed to choose here?
Yeah,
I have no idea. I will have to try several times unless you have experience on this.
I've seen some issues before about making it more, because like there's no indication. I remember an issue from a while ago about something like that. I saw, did I see Ralph, you had your hand up?
Yeah. I definitely like the idea, because one problem with the Drupal admin interface is that's a lot of reading, and to process, for example, that list of fields is highly demanding. And on one hand, to explain in which context which field could work is definitely for unexperienced users good, but also for experienced users, still a long list to read is hard to comprehend, especially, for example, for screen reader users, even more cumbersome. But if you take, for example, Lalaport has for the creation of content types and the type tray module, where you have, for example, a visual representation, a screenshot for each content type. And if you could do something like that for a field, so that a user just sees by visual scanning, I want, for example, checkboxes. And if you have a small screenshot of a checkboxes, so that a visual association, because everybody is processing things differently. And if you provide more cues for people, and in case if it's unexperienced users, also even some explanations in which context, which field is recommended, that might be worth a thought, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I get to here, like it's not clear, like checkboxes / radio buttons. Well, if I just want a checkbox, it's not clear that the way I get a checkbox is simply by just having this field only have the a Boolean. Oh, gone too far.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing is very disconnected in that sense.
Yeah. So so basically my idea coming here and explaining and just dropping the ball here and explaining you all that information is it could be great that this doesn't live just in my mind, and ideally it could become like an initiative. But the problem that usually have the initiative that usually grow or are created with these broad ideas on the head, they usually are super hard to close because you never get to the end. And if you want to change all the things, you never go anywhere. So ideally, something like that would be more like a meta issue where we come up with ideas and we place them on that meta issue. Like, that's the goal. Let's make the user interface better for site builders, or I don't know, probably someone can come up with a catchy name or something like that. So ideally, the idea will be like creating a map or a list of issues or ideas that we ideally will end up doing. And it could be like small ideas like how to improve small things, or actually improving this form that you are all seeing. And some of them might be bigger, some of them might be smaller. And we ideally could decide if we want to actually create an initiative or just create an issue and add a lot of small issues as childs of that one. So yeah, that's something to discuss.
And I've definitely seen discussions similar to this, but I don't know whether it was on an issue or just in Slack, or this was quite a while ago. So yeah, there's definitely, it would be worth at least, like you say, like a meta issue to try and collect this together. I see. And Andre, did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, but it's just about what Ref Kohler was saying about the idea of having images to reduce the text is a good idea, but I was also going to suggest that we could do something similar to like the tour we have in the Umami, something that we can enable and disable. Like if you want to have tips during the construction of the new content types, you can turn on the tips, and then they would be displayed on the screen. So that way, the most experienced ones can simply disable and won't have more text on the screen, but the least experienced one can enable these tips.
Yeah. I guess there's also, I'm thinking of like the some kind of UI, something I have in mind, and I'm gonna go to something completely different. I have a local Home Assistant thing running here.
Can you open? Okay, go ahead. But I just found a link that exactly has that, because Contentful has exactly that. But go ahead.
So I was just thinking, like, this popped into my head, this interface where like there's lots of things you can add here. So for instance, like if you know, like the thing you want, like a button, right? It doesn't matter what the underlying data architecture of it is. I know I want a button, right? So it gives you the option to add a button. And that's kind of what we should be doing over here when you go to add a field. It's like, well, I know I want like a checkbox. So how do I get to that? We present this as like a list of you build your data model and then you decide what the elements are, but really it should be, I know what the UI elements are that I want. Can you give, Drupal should give you the best data model for that. So yeah.
Just for this exact screen, if you could open, know that you're sharing the screen, the link that I just pasted on the chat.
Yep.
And you scroll down a little bit. I mean, we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. I mean, that's something that already exists.
Right. So something similar to this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
this is
also.
Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, that could also be applied then, for example, for creation of content and creation of blogs and so forth. Just a pattern, not to rely only on text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that kind of style. Is there any more examples there? No, that's just I suppose there's this as well. Like, yeah, it's kind of similar to what we do, but okay. Christina, how do you have any were you proposing that we should sort of collect this together into like a meta issue and maybe an initiative, or I think
I have no idea yet. I mean, it will depend a lot on how many people is interested. Probably I would say that makes more sense, or that the place where this discussion should live so far, probably it's on Slack, because I could decide where to go, but if nobody actually wants to contribute to that, it could be myself saying, oh yeah, let's just go there on the other side. So probably it's more like what other people think about that, because that's something that a lot of people will have some things to say, and actually define the goal and the scope of this. And yeah, it could live in a meta issue, but also it could become an initiative.
Right. And I think, yeah, certainly we could do a Slack thread first and then see where that takes us. Because I'm sure I've seen these kind of things discussed before. So definitely there's probably a piece for us to look to try and find issues that have already kind of touched on these topics. So yeah, let's see, maybe we should take this into a Slack thread as a first step and see where that gets us. Because so you're right, if we don't gain interest in doing this, then we're not going to get very far. So
yeah, and also there's a lot of people missing from this call that usually comes, and they might be interested also on saying something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat. Ralph says, yeah, great idea, and +1 for Slack thread as a star, or like corrected that to start. Okay, I think we're approaching the hour, and unfortunately that means we didn't get time to, despite our efforts in finally getting a demo up and running, we didn't get time to look at the other issue, but we will of course bring that forward to next week, and at least we'll be better prepared for looking at that issue again next week. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and as we said, let's continue the discussions in Slack. And obviously we will have a link to this recording posted on the issue, and we can also comment on the meeting issue and provide resources, because it'd be great to also capture some of the resources that were shared, like the link you provided, Christina, during this discussion. So thanks everyone, and we will be here again next week.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Aaron.
See you. Nice
ya.
weekend.
You.
Thanks. Bye.